You are now listening to the Building Her Dream podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with introverted women entrepreneurs who are building their dream lives and businesses on their own terms. Hosted by business operations strategist, author, and the founder of Building Her Dream, Shayla Burton. To learn more about this podcast and our magazine, visit www.buildingherdream.com. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Building Her Dream podcast. I'm your host and lifelong introvert, Shayla Burton, and I'm so excited to chat with today's guest. She is Mariah Krist, an email and sales copywriter and the founder of Spill the Tea Copy, all the way from Mexico. Hello, Mariah. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm definitely happy to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you. Now, I always like to start off with kind of a fun question. So, Mariah, if you could wake up tomorrow and have the perfect dream life, what would that look like for you?
For me, the perfect dream life is definitely me being able to travel the world, get to see all my favorite dream places that I've been thinking of seeing it since I was a little girl, but all the while being able to help women entrepreneurs and my fellow women in business from my laptop at the same time.
Mm, I love that. So what are some other dream places you would like to visit?
Well, my number one dream place for sure is Tokyo, Japan. Ever since I was 18, I told myself that one day I will be able to see the cherry blossoms in Tokyo one day. And I would also love to see South Korea, Paris,
Hmm.
Spain, like basically a little bit of everywhere, really.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Very cool. Yeah, traveling is definitely a part of my dream. So yeah, and I think, with the type of businesses that we're building, we can work from anywhere. So that's a really doable dream.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think so.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mariah, so you describe yourself as an introvert. I know a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people have like different ideas of what it means to be an introvert. What
Mhm.
do you consider like an introvert?
It's definitely a really interesting question. Uh, Based on my personal experience as being an introvert since I was a little girl, I would say that that is me being an introvert. Like you said, everybody has a different opinion of what an introvert is, but based on who I was as and still am as an introvert, I'm someone who's definitely very quiet, socially awkward. Growing up in school, I was always the type of girl who would be shoved away in the corner of the classroom, willingly shoved in the corner of the classroom with her nose stuffed in a book. I was the type of girl who preferred books over socializing with her fellow peers. Teachers would actually yell at me because they said I was doing too much reading and I needed to talk with my fellow peers and everything, which I didn't want to do because talking was like a nightmare for me
Right.
because I'm an overthinker on top of it. So my definition is definitely someone who is quiet, socially withdrawn a bit, but at the same time, just because there's someone who might prefer reading or some other activity over socializing, that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. It might just mean that they're socially awkward and just more comfortable within their own mind and their own personal activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Being an introvert is definitely not a negative in
Mhm.
my book. For sure. So yeah, when I was younger, I was absolutely the quiet one. I had a few friends, but I did enjoy spending my time alone,
Mhm.
reading and just doing random things.
Yeah.
Um, Now that you're an adult, are you still like kind of like a homebody or like to do stuff yourselves, or do you think you've kind of changed a little bit, or what's your
Mhm.
thoughts on
I would say I've grown from my childhood years, thankfully, as we all definitely should at some
that?
point in our adult lives, of course. But at the same time, I would say I'm pretty 50-50 now. On the one hand, I definitely am still an introvert. I definitely am still very socially awkward. In all honesty, I have pretty bad social anxiety, because
Mm,
again, I'm an overthinker. Even though I'm a copywriter, it's one thing writing words as you're doing a project because you have the editing process. You can go back and fix that up. But when you're talking, especially for someone who's socially anxious, you overthink all your words and everything, and it makes social interactions very nightmarish. So I definitely still very much consider myself an introvert for that reason. And I like still sticking to myself sometimes for sure.
mm,
I like my me time. But at the same time, like you said, I still have my friends. I still have that emotional longing for some socialization for people who get me, who are patient with me. They understand that sometimes I trip on my tongue and I may not always say what I intend to. And that's gotten me into a few embarrassing situations. But that's a
yeah,
whole conversation for another day. But yeah, I definitely still like hanging out with my friends, with those who get me. They don't judge me. They just see my introverted nature as just my shell, but then underneath that shell, there's me and who I am as a person. So I definitely consider myself 50-50. I like my me time. I still struggle with my introverted nature and my social anxiety for sure. But at the same
mm,
time, like any other person, I still like hanging out with my friends, but only those who can overlook my introverted nature.
right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Most of my friends are introverts as well,
Mhm,
but they are just more social than I
mhm.
am. So, like, people don't consider them to be introverts, but they are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
my friends are the exact opposite of me. They're
mm,
definitely, but without a doubt, extroverted.
mm,
They're loud, but not obnoxious. They're just very, open
mhm,
in who they are. Plus it's Mexico. It's part of the culture here.
mhm.
But at the same time, I think it's one of those friendships where it's like the opposites attract, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And for someone
Sure.
like me, I like having someone who's extroverted and is able to pull me out of my shell. Sometimes they're yanking me right out of that shell. Like, come on, you're doing this activity, you're doing that activity. And on the inside, I'm like, but at the same
Right.
time, I'm the kind of person who loves getting out of her comfort zone. Not all the time. I can't afford to mentally do that on an everyday basis, but once or twice a week is enough for me.
Right, right. Yeah, having some extroverted friends do come in handy in some cases. Um, yeah. So you talked about like being around people who understand you. Growing up, did your family like understand your personality?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say they were pretty understanding. Once in a while, of course, especially as a teenager, you have your bad days, of course. There were some times where my mom really wanted me to get out of my comfort zone and do things to just to make friends. Her intention was definitely very good as my mom. She just wanted to see me get out, make friends, make some memories as a kid, that kind of thing. But at that time, I definitely emotionally wasn't ready yet to get out of
Mhm,
my comfort zone. It really wasn't until my early adult years where I felt more ready to try to get out of my comfort zone once in a while. But for the
mm,
most part, I would say like 90% of the time, my parents, my family, especially my mom, was very understanding. She just did her best to accommodate my emotional needs. She would always take me to the library because that was my favorite place in the world. That's where I love to go. I loved Barnes and Noble instead of the mall. Yes, loud and proud book nerd. That was my favorite place, not the mall. I had to go to my Barnes and Noble. I completely
right.
fangirled when one of my family members got me a Barnes and Noble gift card as a gift. I like completely like like then you saw my extroverted nature coming out a bit, so
Right.
yeah, my family was very accommodating, very helpful. They got me my Barnes and Noble gift cards, taking me to the library, which was my special place as an introvert. So yeah, thankfully I was someone who had a pretty supportive family in that regard.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So, what made an introverted person with a little bit of social anxiety decide I'm going to start my own business?
That's a pretty long story, but I'll try to give everyone here the shortened version of it. Um,
Okay.
Again, I was always the loud and proud book nerd. I was the girl who had a huge stack of books in her locker. I was friends with the librarian, so growing up, I knew I wanted to do something with professional writing. But unfortunately, when I was 18, I had some people say that writing was not a real job. It wasn't a real career. You can't make a real living off of it and everything. And stupid 18-year-old me let her dreams get totally crushed like a cheap graham cracker. So for the next several years, I ended up in housekeeping instead and a little bit
Mm.
of daycare here and there. And I love working with the kids and everything. Even though I'm an introvert who has social anxiety, there was something about kids that I loved uh doing every day. I loved working with them, teaching them and everything, etc. But it just wasn't where my passion was, that kind of thing. It was more of like my
Yeah.
second choice career as opposed to my first. And housekeeping, I appreciated the paycheck as well, but I hated that with a passion. The only passion I had in that was how much I hated it. And I give major props to the women out there, the moms and the men that are able to do cleaning on a regular day-to-day basis because you have strength that I do not have. I could not do
Right.
that on an everyday basis. And when I was around 22, I was mentally done. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I can't keep doing this. Plus the constant social interactions like I had in the housekeeping career and everything. It just was not what I mentally wanted for myself. It just, like, I was
Mhm.
done. So I'm like, okay, I gotta change something in my life at this point. I am so done. I'm so unhappy. What can I do to better my life? That's
Yeah.
when I went back to writing. I fell down the Google rabbit hole and I saw how so many women were making a full-time living off of copywriting. And at that time period, I was completely brand new to copywriting. I didn't know that much about it. So I was going in pretty like new to the industry for sure. So I did a
Mhm.
bunch of research and I'm like, okay, you know what? Sorry, I'm a copywriter who's tripping on her tongue. This is what I was talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
so I fell down the Google rabbit hole, and based on all the research I found, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. I want to try it because I'm so unhappy with my life. I need to make some changes. Nobody else is gonna do that for me. I'm just gonna try this. I'm gonna go back to my childhood dream and what I originally wanted to do. No more wasting any time. So ever since then, I've been doing all the research I can on copywriting. I've enrolled in so many different programs. My favorite is probably Copy Hackers. I'm not sure how many of
Mm.
you out there have heard of it, but that's definitely my favorite uh, educational course about copywriting and everything. And I've
Mhm.
been figuring myself out as a copywriter because there's so many niches that you can do in copywriting. So after lots of trial and error, figuring myself out as a writer, I finally have left my housekeeping days behind me. And even though it's definitely been a rough ride figuring out who I am as a copywriter, who I want to serve in the business world, I'm definitely really happier now than I was 6 years ago for sure.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations on, stepping out and going after your dream. I know it's can be really difficult when you have the naysayers saying that you can't do something. And I'm sure that they had really good intentions and they probably just hadn't seen anyone else do that career, but
Hmm.
you're doing it. And so really good for you.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely am proud of what I've done 6 years later for sure. Because yeah, like I said, 6 years ago when I was 22, 23, I was definitely so like unaware of how much work is entailed in copywriting. And even today, I
Mhm.
still get some naysayers who find it really hard to believe that doing something as simple as email writing or doing a couple of sales pages can really be uh worth that much in payment. Like for example, I know when I was into I also offer blog writing. And when I was
Okay.
showing some of my like my new website, for instance, when I was around 24, 25 years old, I just revamped my website and everything. And I was showing it off to my brother. And he saw how much I was charging for my blog packages. And
Mm.
he's like, sis, you're charging that much for a couple of blog posts? I'm like, yeah, because I do all the research, I do the writing, I do the editing, I do the SEO and all the keywords and everything. Yeah, because I'm putting in quite a bit of work. He's like, sis, don't you think you're ripping them off? I'm like, no, like how can you charge that much for blog writing? You're telling me that much work goes into one single blog post? I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it wasn't a lot of work, you are charging people for the results that they are
Hmm.
going to receive because they're going to make money off of that sales copy that you write. So you should be charging your worth.
Yeah, especially for a blog post that's around 1,000 words. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I can definitely agree that copywriting is very much an art, especially as the years go by and you get consistent experience with it. Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. You don't just get to binge Netflix and write whatever comes to your mind. There's definitely an art to it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hmm. So what's a major challenge that you've faced so far as you are continuing to build your business?
So, like we were mentioning before, my introverted nature is still very much a challenge for me. It was only
Mhm.
this past year that I was actually able to actually turn on my camera for my client calls, for interviews, even like this, because my introverted nature has resulted in me having panic attacks on
Yeah.
live streams and client calls. It's actually cost me clients because my panic attack turned them off and made them think that I wasn't professional or there was something weird about me,
Yeah.
even after I explained, I'm sorry, I'm normally not like this. It's just my anxiety, as someone who struggles with social anxiety, there was just that, but still they did not want to work with someone like me, that kind of thing. So that's definitely been a challenge. And even though I have met lots of women who are very supportive of me nonetheless and encouraged me not to let situations like that discourage me from pursuing my business dreams as a copywriter. Nonetheless, I wanted to grow out of that and figure, okay, I need to grow as a businesswoman and prove that I am an excellent copywriter. I have a portfolio that proves I truly know what I'm doing. I've enrolled in the best copywriting programs to excel in my craft. But if having my camera off is going to be an unnecessary stumbling block, I want to be someone strong enough to overcome that. So
Mhm.
thankfully, this past year, I've been able to turn my camera on and force myself to go on lives, to do interviews with clients with actually showing my face. And even though it's still very much a struggle and sometimes I still stumble, maybe I end up saying something that isn't quite the way I imagined it in my head. Nonetheless, I've overcome that and I'm definitely proud of how far I've come, but it's still nonetheless a struggle for me. As I like to mention to a lot of people, my anxiety is something that's always going to stay with me, but in the
Mhm.
very least, I can minimize it and control it as much as I possibly can. That's what I try to do on a daily basis.
Mm. Yeah, and good for you because I've seen some of your lives last year and I've seen you posting about how this was kind of new to you and so you were
I wasn't
making
proud of
yourself
those first
do it.
couple of lives, and I've stopped doing lives because that really wasn't as much as an anxiety thing as much as it was a me thing, you know,
Mhm.
because I realized, okay, I've gotten a bit better with this, sure, but I just honestly hated it. Generally
Yeah.
speaking, I'm someone who, oh, I realize I prefer doing my reels and posts and everything, but in the very least, I am proud of the fact that I can get on camera for like interviews or
Yeah.
collaborations, like this one for sure.
Yeah. So give us some tips. Like, what did you do to get more comfortable with being on camera?
What I found really helped was definitely preparing what I was going to say, even if it was
Okay.
just a very general script. I have the title of what I or the subject of what I was going to discuss and like bullet points and outlines of generally speaking what I wanted to say. And I can kind of
Yeah.
fill in the blanks here and there so I can make it more natural. So preparing and having even just a general script for how I wanted it to go definitely helped me for sure. And also just forcing myself to go live because even because I noticed that I was the type of person where I kept saying, okay, just 5 more minutes and I'm gonna do it. 10 minutes would go
Mhm.
by and I'm still saying just 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
No, after I was like, okay, I know if I keep saying 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes is going to turn into tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to turn into another tomorrow. So, yeah, just getting out there, forcing yourself to do it. Even if you mess up, it's totally okay. The internet's seen a lot worse stuff than your life, for that's for sure. And I was
Right.
definitely grateful that during my lives, I was open to say, hey, I'm new to this. Sorry if it's very awkward. And I was thankful for the few people that commented, hey, it's totally okay. Good for you in doing something that scares you. Even little comments like that meant the world to me, even if it was just one. So,
Yeah.
yeah, my advice is definitely just getting out there, forcing yourself to do it. Don't really focus so much on how you look. That's not going to help you out at all. And just really try to act like you're talking to your bestie if you can. That I know that personally helped me too.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, when I first started my business and I had to do the calls with clients or potential clients, um, I struggled with like the camera as well. And so writing the scripts beforehand definitely helped me. Now I am super comfortable like with calls with potential clients. Um, 'Cause I don't really think of it like a as a sales call, I just
Mm-hmm.
think of it I'm just talking to somebody, talking about business, sharing, a thought,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, and then sharing my services and my prices, but I'm not trying to convince anybody to work with me, like, if you wanna work with me or not. So, that's how I
Exactly.
consider it, but what I do still struggle with is, live videos and reels. So my assistant wants me to record talking reels and just me talking to a camera and I yeah, it's something that I really struggle with. Like
Yeah.
I'll have
Me
to
too.
record like 10 reels just to get one actual good one. At
That's how
least
I feel. That's how I feel. I don't do the talking head reels, or the ones where I'm just talking to the camera. I definitely know so many women that do that, like you mentioned, they are
yeah.
talking to the camera in their story or in a reel or something. And I can't do that. My anxiety still doesn't let me do that. And like you said, I find myself having to do like an hour's worth of different takes just to do a 10 or 20-second reel, and
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, that took me an hour to do, and this is only like 10 seconds. Again, that's the struggle for us introverts. We're always overanalyzing every second, or at least there's a lot of us introverts that do that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, um, you probably won't see me doing that. Or I don't know. I may keep trying just to get myself comfortable with it, but I'm not going to pressure myself because
Oh
there's
yeah,
other things
absolutely.
that I
Yeah,
can do.
absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm someone where I find that for the reels that I try to do on an every other day basis, again, for the sake of my business, I personally find that as an introvert, yeah, the talking ones don't help me. Again, that's my introverted anxiety kicking in. I'm definitely the
Mhm.
person that prefers doing like what do you call it, the voice dubbing where there's an audio and you're, dubbing yourself saying it and you have your niche related content in it. I find that
Oh,
those are the reels that I love doing because I'm not talking. It's really just me writing again, usually, but in the form of a catchy 5 to second reel where I'm not saying anything.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We just have to figure out how to make it work for
Oh,
us.
absolutely. And it looks different on each and every one of us for sure. No introvert
Mhm.
is the same.
Right, right. Yeah. So how do you handle like networking?
Yeah, that was definitely a struggle for me as well. What I found helped best was once again just forcing myself to go out there and do it. I joined a couple of networking memberships for a little while as a way to A, work on my social anxiety, and B, just to network and expand my audience and reach out with women who I could collab with, potentially work with. And the type of networking that I found I liked best was those where it was more arranged, like they had a host who was asking questions, and each person got to take a turn in telling their response or their story. Like there was one particular networking membership that I really did love for a little while until it just wasn't for me anymore. I can't remember the name, but I loved that particular networking one because something like that I could very much work with as an introvert where all I had to do was answer a question, but
Mm,
definitely just getting out there, looking at my potential networking options, seeing which one was best suited for me, myself, because obviously there's so many different types of networking events. So, and also just rehearsing potential conversations in your head was something that really helped for me as well. So I could kind of prepare myself instead of being
right.
caught off guard. I end up saying something that sounded better in my head, but maybe I couldn't quite verbalize that well, which I find I do quite often. Just ask my family, they'll tell you plenty of times where I flubbed my answer with whatever conversation was going on. Uh,
Yeah.
and also, what I found really helped for me myself is I love my herbal tea. I love my essential oils. And I really did find that having my calming tea, and that's literally the name of it, calming tea, is something
Hmm.
that really much helped soothe my nerves. My essential oils, like my lavender and everything, that was something that helped me myself. So, what I really encourage other introverts to do is to find what works best for them. Again, introverts are all unique and they're all their own way. No two of us are the same for sure. So definitely recommend having you find what works best for you because networking in the online business world is so very, very important. You're not going to get anywhere unless you network, you reach out to the right types of people, whether they can be your potential clients or they can be someone who refers you to your favorite client of the month. You got to get out there and network. But if you find that your introverted nature is stopping you, you got to find a way to overcome that, whether it's finding ways to calm your nerves, whichever way might help best for you, or maybe finding the type of networking program or membership that is best suited for someone like you, because there are all different types of networking programs. So you really got to get out there and find your own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot out there. I've joined a few, but I find I don't know. I find that it's difficult for me to actually build strong relationships in them because I'm still like I'm still too quiet. So like
Mhm.
say if it's a meetup via Zoom or something, everyone else will be jumping in and talking. And if someone doesn't call on me directly, then I'm just there listening and observing
Oh yeah,
and not
that's me.
engaging.
That can be me for sure. Plenty of times, both online and offline. I'm the person who's sitting quietly in the corner, just observing everything, taking everything in. That's me definitely online and offline for sure.
Yeah, same, same. Yeah. What's something that you are really proud of in your business? So like maybe a win or a milestone that you've reached.
Particular milestone. I definitely would just say that my proudest achievement so far is it's the simple fact, I'm going to keep it simple, is the fact that I've managed to niche down into my ideal type of copy industry, which is email marketing. Although
Mm,
sales, copy marketing is definitely like a solid second thing that I love doing after that blog writing, but email marketing in particular is my number one niche that I love doing because for so long I was more of a general copywriter. And being
mhm,
general, it can be a good thing in sometimes, but in the copywriting world, it definitely helps if you have one particular niche. So that way
mhm,
that you specialize in. So I'm definitely really proud of myself, especially since I came into email marketing by accident. I
mhm,
think it was around my fourth year of copywriting when I noticed that a lot of women entrepreneurs from all niches and industries were coming to me because they said that they loved my book nerd theme. They said they loved my book and tea brand that I had going on my posts, on my websites, and everything. And I wasn't even really looking at it as really a brand message. It was just me. It was just Mariah. That was it.
yeah.
I'm like, hey, this is my brand. Looks like I found my kind of brand and that my ideal type of clients really like. And the second thing these women were coming to me was that they felt that I could be the person to specifically solve their email marketing problems. I
Mhm,
don't really know what it was particularly about me that made them feel they could come to me with that specific request. But
yeah.
nonetheless, I leaned into it because it was something my inbox was being flooded with. So, and so over that year, and ironically, I was trying to go into B2B marketing for, I think it was blog posts and sales pages. I don't even remember. It wasn't email marketing. That's the main
Yeah.
thing. But, and so when I noticed that that's what all these women were coming to me, this is what they were telling me, this is what they were asking of me, and that's why I'm like, hey, clearly this is something that is meant for me as a copywriter. And I wasn't even looking for it. I didn't even stop, or consider it. But clearly, this is what the world is telling me at this point. So ever since then, I've niched down into email marketing, and I'm really proud of myself for how far I've come. I've come with it. I can really
Mhm,
call myself an expert in email marketing. I've done email marketing programs. I'm officially certified in email marketing. I've done emails for all sorts of awesome women entrepreneurs. I have them on my portfolio because of how proud I am of the work I've done for these women and the fact that I've helped them with something that might be easy for me. For me, emails are now easy to figure out. They're my thing. I can definitely go on and on about the different things that go along in an email marketing campaign. But for these
mhm,
women, they're awesome at their own thing, whether it's bookkeeping, social media, lead generation, business coaching, finance, or whatever it is. They are awesome at their thing. But when it comes to their email marketing, it's something that they're struggling with, and it's something that I can help them with. It's become my specialty. So the fact that I've grown from being completely clueless in
yeah.
copywriting to being an actual copywriting expert, that's definitely the one thing I'm so proud of myself for achieving now.
Yes, yeah, that is really awesome. That you found something that you are really great at, that you enjoy doing, and that a lot of people need help with. That's e email marketing, that's definitely a challenge for me as well. So, I think you are doing amazing work And Mariah, it has been really great chatting with you. Before I let you go, I wanted to give you an opportunity. If there's any, last thing that you want to share with our listeners, you can do that. Or if you just want to let us know where people can find you if they want to reach out to you.
Yeah, it's definitely been great chatting, with you too, for sure. And again, I'm definitely really happy to have had the chance to have been here. Um, Again, for those of you who are listening, I am Mariah Krist of Spill the Tea Copy. And if you want a chance to work with me, you can always go to my website, spilltheteacopy.com. I recently revamped my brand new VIP copy day so that I can definitely help women in business in the best way that I can. So if you need your emails or your sales page done like ASAP. I have my brand new VIP copy day so I can get them done in literally just one day at your total convenience. Because I understand that in the business world, you have to hustle, hustle, hustle. It's better to have things done sooner rather than later. So if you want the chance to work with me, you can check out my website and see if that's something that suits you. If not, you can just follow me on my Facebook or Instagram. Again, it's just Mariah Krist. And I'm always up for a chat about copywriting and again, just helping my fellow women entrepreneurs in any way that I can because us women in business must always stick together because if we're not supporting each other, none of us are going to make it in the business world.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Well, thank you again, Mariah, for joining me. We'll definitely check out your website and reach out to you because we need your services.
I'm always
Yeah.
here and happy to help.
Sounds good. And thank you to our audience for listening. This has been another episode of the Building Her Dream podcast. If you've enjoyed it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe, leave us a review, and stay up to date with what we're doing by visiting www.buildingherdream.com.